We are starting our journey into ecology, and we are starting off with population ecology. So we have studied the organisms. We are going to get into population. Population, what actually is it? It's a group of individuals of the same species in the same area at the same time. Population ecology studies what factors affect that population, right? So these populations rely on the same resources, they interact, and they interbreed. So, why population ecology, you may ask? Well, let's talk about it. We want to understand the factors that influence the size of populations, right? The general principles, we take a look at specific cases. We want to manage populations. We need to increase population size of endangered species. We want to decrease the population size of pests. We want to maintain a population size, things like fisheries management, right? Maintain and maximize a sustainable yield. There are several factors that can affect population size. Abiotic factors, abiotic mean non-living, sunlight and temperature, precipitation, water, basically weather, soil and nutrients. We will be talking about nutrient cycling, and we've talked about soil quite a bit. Our biotic and living factors, other living organisms, our prey, our food, competitors, predators, parasites, disease, sorry about that. And then we have intrinsic factors such as adaptations. Okay. We're taking a look here at abiotic factors of the different weather, the different climate. This plays a huge role. And then we're looking at prey, predator dynamics. Okay. When describing a population, we will discuss its range, its pattern of spacing, its population density, the size of the population. Okay. Population range has geographical limitation. This deals with abiotic and biotic factors, temperature, rainfall, food, predators, etc., and habitat, right? So we have something here that's adapted to the polar biome. We're looking at this huge, thick white fur, and it also has a big fat layer of fat. Honestly, keeps it warm. And then these guys are adapted to the rainforest biome. There could be changes in range. Okay, it could have range expansions and contractions. We're taking a look at where 15,000 years ago, where certain plants used to grow, trees used to grow, and it's changed quite a bit because of a result of competition, right? So you can see the different density that's occurring here. At-risk populations, endangered species have limitations to their range and their habitat. It places them at risk, right? So as human population grows, we're going to see more and more endangered species because we are taking over their territory. All right, so population spacing. Within a population's geographic range, local densities may vary substantially. Variations in local densities are among the most important characteristics that a population ecologist may study, since they provide insight to the environmental associations and social interactions of individuals, right? So environmental differences, even at the local level, contribute to variation in a population density. Some habitat patches are simply just more suitable for species than are others. There may be social interactions between members of the population which may maintain patterns of spacing between individuals. It can also contribute to variation in the population density. So there are three different patterns that we're looking at here that we're going to describe a little bit more. We have clumped, we have random, and we have uniform. This will, again, provide a lot of insight into the environmental associations. So we're looking at wolves, we're looking at different trees, right? And we're looking at penguins for uniform. Let's talk about the most common one first. This is clumped pattern. Individuals are essentially aggregated in patches, clumps. An example of this is plants or fungi. They'll often clump where the soil conditions and other environmental factors are suitable for germination, right? Many animals will spend much of their time in what we call microenvironments that suit their needs. So they're going to go to the places that are best for them to survive. Certain lizards and insects will be clumped under logs. If you've ever gone out into a forest and picked up a log, that's because there's a higher humidity there, right? And they're safer there. Clumping can also be associated with mating behavior. It may be suitable also for predators, like a pack of wolves, to be in this clumping pattern because it makes it easier for them to catch prey. That makes sense, right? So then we have uniform. This may result in direct interactions between individual population. Okay. Um, an example is some plants that we've talked about before secrete chemicals that inhibit germination and growth of nearby individuals that may compete for resources, right? But animals often that exhibit territorial behavior will have this dispersal, this uniform type of dispersal. This is not as common as clumped. Clumped seems to be the most common form of population dispersion. Okay. So we're taking a look at population size. There's a lot of things that can change population size, right? Adding and removing individuals from a population, birth, death, immigration, emigration. This really brings us into Hardy-Weinberg. We think about those assumptions of Hardy-Weinberg, but population sizes can vary, okay? So we have population growth rates. Factors that affect a population growth rate are sex ratio, how many females versus males, generation time, at what age do females reproduce, and age structure, how females at a reproductive age are in a cohort. So these are all really important things to consider with population growth rates. Okay. Factors that affect growth and decline of populations. These are the vital statistics and how they change over time. We're looking at the Belding ground squirrels here. And it's showing you their death rate, their average life expectancy, right? How old they are. So that's just an example. They're kind of cute though. Look at them. Okay, this is males versus females. Okay, so what do we notice here? Males versus females. Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. Okay, yeah, number of deaths per year. So from 0 to 1, 0 to 1 to 2. Okay, and then we're looking at the death rate, and then the average life expectancy. So it seems like younger females females in general have a higher life expectancy. Why do teenage boys pay Teenage boys pay a high car insurance rate. This is true. I'm just putting one of mine on. That's a great question. Think about that for a little bit. All right. So, what adaptations have led to this difference in male versus female mortality? It has to do with behaviors most of the time. Okay. So let's take a look at survivorship curves. This is a relatively straight line of the plots. It indicates a constant rate of death. However, males have a lower survival rate overall than females, so that's our curve for what we were just talking about. Sorry. This is our Belding ground squirrel again, which I still think is really cute, but we're looking at the difference in males versus females. Age structure, these are actually really interesting plots. The relative number of individuals of each age. So what do these data imply about population growth in these countries? So if we take a look at Kenya, we see that there is a large number of the population is under the age of 20. But if we take a look at, and so this is rapid growth in Kenya, right? Male versus female. We look at the United States, the slow growth. Our largest population is from the ages of 30 to 40. But if we look at a zero growth or a decrease, we're looking in Italy here, for example. You see a slow birth rate. You see this high number of individuals in this middle age group here. And it looks like females, overall in the United States, females live longer. But this is just showing us rapid growth, slow growth, and zero growth. And you can tell by birth rate here. Slow growth, rapid growth. The thing that happens in Kenya, though, the death rate is quite young. And that's what you can deduce from this population graph. Okay. Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at different survivorship curves. So let's see. Let's take a look at human type 1 curve is flat at the start, reflecting a low death rate during early and middle life. Okay. Kind of makes sense for humans. And then it drops steeply as death rates increase among older age groups. So humans and large mammals that produce few offspring, but they provide really good parental care. I think humans usually take care of their kids still, I don't know, minimum of 18 in most cases. They're likely to show this type of curve, right? So high death rate post-reproductive years. All right. In contrast, actually, I want to take a look at 3 first. It drops sharply at the start. So if we take a look here, we have a huge drop. It reflects a high death rate for young. It flattens out as the death rates decline for individuals that survive to a critical age. This is associated with organisms that produce a high amount of offspring with little to no parental care. Long-lived plants, fish, marine invertebrates, right? So very high mortality, but few survivors, and then they live long, okay? And then type 2 is our intermediate. There's a constant death rate over organisms' lifespan. Those ground squirrels that we've been talking about exhibit this. Rodents, lizards, annual plants, hydra, which is a marine invertebrate. Interesting little things, right? So trade-offs, survival versus reproduction. The cost of reproduction. The increased reproduction may decrease survival. So age at first reproduction, investment per offspring, number of reproductive cycles per lifetime. Natural selection favors a life history that maximizes the lifetime of reproductive success. Okay, so we're taking a look at parental survivors here. This is a kestrel falcons. The cost of a larger broods to both male and female parents. So if we take a look here at this research that's been done, this is an excellent final project that somebody did. So researchers in the Netherlands studied effects of parental caregiving in European kestrels over 5 years. The researchers transferred chicks among nests to, to produce reduced broods, 3 or 4 chicks. Normal broods, 5 or 6, and enlarged broods, 7 or 8. They then measured the percentage of male and female parent birds that survived the following winter. Both males and females provide care for their chicks in this. So we have the reduced broods. Oh, that makes sense, huh? Reduced brood size, the normal brood size, and enlarged. So the lower survival rates of kestrels with larger broods indicates that caring for more offspring negatively affects the survival of parents. So that's the cost of reproduction. Very interesting. So we have some different reproductive strategies that we're going to talk about. K-selected, which is late reproduction and few offspring. Invest a lot in raising offspring. So that's our K-selected, right? Primates, us, a coconut, interestingly enough. So then there's R-selected reproductive strategy, right? Where we have early reproduction, many offspring, little parental care, things like insects, and many plants. Okay. Yeah. So the trade-offs: number and size of offspring versus survival of offspring or a parent. All right. So again, we talked about it. So here's our weedy plants. This dandelion grows quick, produces a large number of seeds, and then spreads them everywhere. You guys see this in your yard every day. Some plants, such as the coconut palm, produces a moderate number of very large seeds, and then the large endosperm provides nutrients for the embryo. This helps ensure the success of a relatively large fraction of offspring here. Okay, R selected dandelion, K selected. Okay, so we take a look here. K selected, R selected. Very interesting. Oh, look at that. All right, so how do we measure population growth? The change in population equals births minus deaths. Pretty straightforward. The explanation model, this is our under ideal conditions. Let's take a look here. So N equals the number of individuals, R equals the rate of growth, Ri equals intrinsic rate, T equals time, D equals rate of change. The intrinsic rate is the maximum rate of growth. Okay, so we're taking a look at how they calculate that here. Every pair has 3 offspring. Every pair has 4 offspring. That shows their growth increasing at a constant rate. All right, exponential growth rates. So let's take a look here. Characteristics of populations without limiting factors. So the J-shaped curve of exponential growth is characteristic of some populations that are either introduced to a new or unfilled environment, or whose numbers have been drastically reduced by a catastrophic event and they're rebounding. So the graph on the right is showing us the population that occurred in elephants in Kruger National Park in South Africa after being protected from hunting. So as you can see here, their population was low, and then it just skyrocketed. So after about approximately 60 years, the large number of elephants caused enough damage to the park vegetation that there was a collapse in the food supply. And then it stopped population growth due to starvation. unfortunately. So we have limiting factors here. Okay. This is a whooping crane. Yeah. All right. So regulation of population size. We have limiting factors such as that are density dependent. So competition, food, mates, nesting sites, predators, parasites, pathogens. Then we have density independent, so things such as abiotic factors, sunlight, temperature, rainfall. Okay. So we're showing you a picture of a cheetah marking their territory. That's competition. We have swarming locusts. We have competition for nesting sites down below. Okay. Oh, that makes it easier to read. So introduced species, they're a non-native species. They're transplanted populations. They grow exponentially in a new area. They outcompete native species. This gives a loss of natural controls, a lack of predators, parasites, and competitors, which is why they're able to do well. It reduces diversity. So examples of this are the African honeybee, the gypsy moth, the zebra mussel, and the purple loosestrife. So the gypsy moth is one that's most common to us around here. They get in and they kill everything. Okay, so this is showing you the zebra mussel shell. They, in June of 1988, were introduced, and look at what happened in February 92, April of 94, September 99. They just became completely invasive and took over. So again, reduces diversity, loss of food and nesting site for animals, and it causes economic damage, right? This is our purple loosestrife. This is the plant. We're looking at 1968 versus 1978. Okay. All right. So logistic rate of growth. Can populations continue to grow exponentially? What do you think? Absolutely not. There are things that limit growth, which we've talked about briefly as limiting factors. Okay. All right. So K here is equal what we call carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is what is going to limit population growth. How much of a population environment can sustain, right? So what happens as n approaches k? Okay. So here we're taking a look, and we have a maximum population size that the environment can support with no degradation, okay, of habitat. This varies with changes of resources. So we're taking a look at this example here. Okay, we have this flattened out curve, usually always indicates carrying capacity. Then, yeah, what's going on with the plankton? So there's changes in the environment that can reduce the number of plankton. My guess would be global oceanic warming. Okay. So things that can change carrying capacity, population cycles, predator and prey interactions. So if you take a look, this is actually really interesting. The lynx is the predator of the hare. So as the hare population increases, so does the lynx population. You can see a direct correlation here. Okay. So what is carrying capacity? Good question. They're saying right here, okay. Right there for the lynx. So human population growth is a heated topic. So what factors have contributed to this exponential growth pattern? What do you guys think? Is our human population reaching carrying capacity is the question, all right? Factors that have contributed to our exponential growth. Increase in technology, medical technology, medicine, all of these things that we have introduced as we become smarter and continue to evolve, we will have a higher population. So high fertility, medium fertility, low fertility. We're looking at world totals here. Developing countries are taking up a lot of the population. Okay. We have an uneven distribution of the population. 90% of the births are in developing countries. Okay. What is K for humans? 10 to 15 billion, maybe? We're still climbing. Okay. It's an uneven distribution of resources. The wealthiest 20% consumes 90% of resources, increasing the gap between the rich and the poor. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're seeing here. Again, there are a lot of choices to which what we take, okay? And this has to do with the effective income and education. This is just a brief look at our ecological footprint, right? There's an uneven distribution. The wealthiest 20% of the world 86% consumption of resources, 53% of CO2 emissions occur. So USA, Germany, okay. Overpopulation or overconsumption is an excellent question. Okay. Again, based on land and water, these are all the resources the country consumes to absorb and all of the wastes that it produces. Okay. All right, measuring population density. So how do we actually get out there and do this? We count the number of individuals in an area. We mark and recapture methods. I'm going to have you guys working on an activity to do it online. So it's difficult to count a moving target. So we sample populations. Okay. Evolutionary adaptations, coping with environmental variation. We have regulators such as endotherms, right? So we have the endotherms body temperature remaining constant, and then we have conformers like ectotherms, which we've talked about before. All right, this is just showing you a pretty picture of the Earth. Okay, organisms, populations. We'll be getting into communities. We're going to study populations a little bit longer. Ecosystems. All right.